Okay, hi. Welcome back to the latest episode of Tech and Learning Conversations. I'm Kevin Hogan. I'm glad you found us. I'm really excited about this week's conversation with Liz Crawford. She's the Senior Director of Global Education at Kahoot. She also worked for a couple small ed tech companies over the years named Apple, Intel, Hewlett Packard. You may have heard of those. And she has just returned from BETT, which is the largest international ed tech trade show. One of the best parts of my job over the years was getting to go to conferences, getting on the trade show floor, hearing what the vendors themselves are making of the market and what that ultimately means for classrooms and educators and students to what's going to come. Now, a lot of the stuff never does make it into the classroom, but then again, a lot of it does. So I would always take advantage of not only the trade show floor, but the airport gate, maybe even the lobby bar, to have conversations about what they saw as the latest and greatest from an ed tech executive's perspective. So that's what I hope we got here for you a little bit, just to get a little kind of over the shoulder conversation about what ed tech companies are looking at for 2026. Have a listen. Okay, Liz, so great to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here with you.
Although I would have much preferred to have seen you face to face on the trade show floor out in East London at BETT, where we have met in years past. I mean,
Yes.
not to date ourselves too much, but I think one of my first BETT, the big story was about using Twitter in the classroom, right? So
I remember those days.
where that goes. Yeah. But really, let's just jump into it. Tell us how was it? I mean, and maybe I guess I could tell everybody. I mean, if you don't know, BETT is the biggest education technology show in the world. No offense to ISTE, it dwarfs ISTE. And it's interesting in so many ways because it's not just the pure size of it, but just the cultural aspects, right? Of like all these different countries and all these different cultures coming together to talk about it. So that's my intro into you to say, what was how was this year?
Yeah, it was great. It was very high energy. I've been going to bed a long time as well, and so I've definitely seen the show grow a lot over the years. And it was amazing. The energy was great. The booths were packed. Tons of educators there, ministerial delegations from all over the world, people speaking multiple languages, cultures, all of those things. So it was a wonderful week.
Yeah.
We were on the go. The Kahoot stand was packed pretty much all day, every day, 3 people deep, tried to get demos and, attend our sessions. And it was just a really busy week. So I think we all left with a lot of energy, exhausted, but with a lot of energy about what's next.
Yeah. Now this is going to be my fault for bringing it up, but I have to anyway.
Okay.
What was the level of AI hype? And what was it from like a
Yeah.
1 to 10, like a pain scale, or what? How much AI was still being talked about? How much of it was real, and how much it
Yeah.
was like hype from your point of view?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so AI was definitely a hot topic. It was everywhere as part of every conversation. I think the conversations are getting a little bit more thoughtful about AI and like how do we support teaching and learning with AI and keep some of the fundamentals like reading and math and obviously the teacher student relationships intact. And so I think that it was everywhere. And I think people are certainly leading with it. And but I think a lot of thoughtful conversation about how do we do this well? How do we do this thoughtfully? How do we, make sure everybody has guidelines and, that, but we're not blocking students from creativity and the tools that they're using in their real life. So I thought it was actually pretty balanced, in my opinion. Lots of AI tools, lots of AI first type of tools out there, but in general, like almost all companies are thinking about how to integrate it into their platforms. So
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like talking about the internet, right? And it's like
yes,
any
yeah,
product or service you're gonna have for ed tech's gonna involve the internet, so it's gonna involve
yeah.
AI too. But there were just a couple of years there where it was just the hype was so much. Any company was then now an AI company, and it's like all A ed tech companies are gonna use AI, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we thought about we definitely have a session in the Kahoot booth on AI and how we've integrated tools for teacher efficiency and productivity, and how to make lessons more engaging, and how to basically help make teachers' lives better, easier, save time, those kinds of things. So we've thought about that pretty thoughtfully. Um, but yeah, we did also have it in our stand. So
Sure. Well, how about
yeah,
in terms of the experience of, I think most of our readers, our listeners are US based. I know we have a bit of an international audience,
yeah.
but what are some distinctions that you see between the educators that are roaming your booth at BETT versus ISTE? Are there some things there, some insights, some experiences where it's like, wow, it would be great if US educators did this, or wow, it's really great that US educators don't do this?
Oh yeah, I think yeah, that's a really good question. We saw educators and talked to educators from all over the world. I think it was also like we always learn a lot. And me personally, when I talk to educators, I learn a lot too. So we learned how they're using Kahoot, how they're using edtech, how they're thinking about student engagement. Thinking about student engagement, not just about clicks or time spent, but really what does real engagement look like? And so those were some really interesting conversations. I think we're having those in the US as well, but it was just definitely an interesting conversation point. I think what I noticed too, I hosted some sessions in the booth and asked, if the educators were using LMSs as an example, and sometimes they weren't really. So I think from that perspective, the US is a little bit ahead on the LMS usage. And of course, it depends regionally. And then we've seen a lot of growth in all over the world. But from a Kahoot perspective, we've seen growth in Germany and France and Indonesia and Japan. And so we're having a lot of global conversations now about localizing and like what does ed tech look like in all these countries around the world. So those were some of the very
Yeah.
interesting
And
conversations. Yeah.
so is that just kind of cultures catching up to different cultures catching up to the technology? Is just an over kind of understanding of the importance of this? How does that work specifically in with what you guys are doing at Kahoot?
Yeah, I think it's driven by teacher adoption of tools that are, a good user experience that provide value that impact learning outcomes. And I think teachers, obviously, Kahoot is a very viral product, so it's known to be a very user friendly and exciting, engaging tool. And I think more and more teachers are just adopting it. We kind of have this viral growth engine that backs us, which is really nice. But I think more and more even at the government levels, the country levels, they're really looking for tools to impact student outcomes. And so there's a lot of conversations around, engagement is great, but what does that mean from a student outcomes standpoint? And so we were able to contribute to that conversation with all the efficacy and research and stuff that we have about our platform. But yeah, I think it's just, teachers wanting to provide a more engaging learning experience. Students are, obviously shorter attention spans. They're using technology outside of school, and they're, I think, wanting to relate and inspire kids in school as well. So,
Yeah, that seems like that classic juxtaposition of ed tech, of like the top down versus the bottom up in terms
yeah,
of innovation and in terms of
yeah.
applications of technologies. I remember being at BETT, and you'd have the minister of education from the Philippines who would be walking around, and he'd be like, "I'll take 19 million of those." And there's one
Yeah,
person making a technology decision, right? But in the
yeah,
case of Kahoot and other things, that it's just now from the educators and a lot of times it's the students too who kind of are emphasizing and pushing these sort of tools
yeah.
to go up. So, but let me ask you this: when you're back at Terminal 5 at Heathrow, heading back to the States, any other kind of surprises that you can think of? Any thoughts like, huh, that seems new or interesting?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation, I mean, I don't know how new this is, but really the conversation around the future ready skills for students, we used to call them 21st century skills. That's still a topic. And I think it's like, how does technology support the future ready or the soft skill development in students? And then I think partnerships is still a big conversation around with amongst ed tech tools and amongst the platforms that are used every day in education. And how do we work together to make sure that we're trying to be seamless and help educators connect the dots across all the platforms they're using. So that was a good conversation. And a lot of buzz around formative assessment, actually, which was great for us. Obviously, Kahoot's used for formative assessment, and it was part of some of the BETT stage keynotes, as well as some of the sessions that were happening at the same time, and in the individual booths as well. So that was exciting too. That's a topic.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
and I know you don't have any data to back this up, but I mean, this is just a total vibe check. Okay, this whole interview, this conversation,
Okay.
but they're the ones I always like to have after a show like this, because just really
Yeah.
want to kind of tap people's like what you saw. Here in the States, I'm talking to you from New York City. It was just implemented a cell phone ban. The idea of screen time restrictions, the idea of worries about student behaviors, student mental health as a result of use of technology. It's not all bully when it comes to kind of ed
Mhm.
tech in the sense. Uh,
Yeah.
w- what was the vibe over there? Was there anything similar to that, or is it kind of all systems go?
Yeah, yeah, there were questions. We got questions, and there were conversations happening around screen time, and definitely how screen time is used for learning versus how screen time is used for other things, and how to monitor that in classroom. There were some cell phone bans. I think it's seems more prevalent in the US right now, but there are definitely areas of the rest of the world that are banning cell phones. And I think our take on it is that learning can be social and it can be engaging, and that can motivate students. And a lot of our research shows that the gamification of Kahoot really inspires students to participate, show up for class, compete against their classmates, learn in a really fun way. And we see that social learning piece can also be inclusive. Students who, you know, uh, they want to feel like they belong to something, and they want to, feel connected, especially after the pandemic. And I know that was a challenge for students to feel connected again. And I think the gamification piece and the enjoy enjoying class has really brought some of that back. So, but yeah, it's still a topic. Uh, Amazingly, years later, it's still a topic around screen time and how it's used in education. So,
Yeah. I guess
yeah.
just finish up. Any other thoughts or insights for our readers about what's to come? Maybe set them up. I always thought that BET was like the semi-annual preview for ISTE, right? I mean, a lot of products that would be announced by a lot of the big boys. I'm reading gender based there, but big
Yeah.
Microsoft
Yeah.
would wait and then come, and then that would be the big thing at ISTE. Anything that you saw there that might be a preview of what, I don't know, either an educator or a district administrator might be seeing on their radar coming up this year.
Yeah, I think the work of some of the big tech companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, some of those big ones, they're definitely leading around innovation and bringing AI tools to the masses. And we have an integration with Microsoft's Learning Zone product that enables teachers to create Kahoots on Copilot PCs, as an example. And we have partnerships with the other big tech companies too. So I think you'll see a lot more of like the partnering and making sure that tools are part of the big platforms that students or teachers are using every day. I'm sure we'll see more AI. I think we'll see, I think more along like thoughtful integration and perhaps like just a change in messaging around it from like, you know, productivity to intention. I think will be really interesting to see how that transpires over the next 6 months leading into ISTE. Professional development, which I think ISTE is really well known for and a great conference for. It's still obviously a vital, important piece of all of this. And so that was part of the conversations as well. And then I think people are looking at like, how do we roll out ed tech at scale? Of course, at BET, there's a lot of ministries there, as you mentioned, ministries of education from all over the world were there. So they're thinking about all of this at grand scale. But I think with some of the large districts we have in the US and statewide deployments and stuff here, I think those same principles will apply. So
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in New York
yeah.
City, which is
Yeah, New York City. Yeah, exactly. All
your
those big
district is
districts and
larger than most countries' district.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Liz, thank you so much. It was just really great to catch up with you. I really appreciate the insights. Hopefully, next time we can catch up at the airport gate or maybe a pub or something in person.
I hope so.
Okay.
It's definitely good to see you.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. Once again, I want to thank Liz for taking the time to share her insights and prognostications on what's to come in the edtech space. Always a fun time, I think. I want to thank you for listening and watching, and be sure to click through and subscribe for all of our conversations here at Tech and Learning Conversations. Look for you next week.